Hey, once again, this is Kevin Miller, and I'm excited to make Adobe Premiere Pro just a little bit easier to digest. In the previous tutorial, we talked about what in the world are we looking at, and hopefully that made sense to you. If it didn't, at least you kind of get an idea of what these things are called and named and that sort of thing, and you can access YouTube and Google and such for a thicker understanding of what it is that we're looking at. So last time we talked about the project panel. This is where we're going to start with everything. So with that said, let's go into our Finder here and find ourselves some clips to work with. Get the wake up this machine here. Here we go. All right, Joel Thomas Fitzgerald. Okay, that was the latest baptism testimony video that I put together, and probably will be one of the more frequent videos that you make since this is something I would love to pawn off on someone else. So anyway, these are all the clips. They're all raw. Nothing's been done with these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this folder here, and instead of dragging one at a time, which is something you can do should you desire, so I'm going to take that whole folder and just drag it in. And you'll see it imports. Everything is there. Remember, you can look at it in this sort of Excel spreadsheet way of looking at this, or you can go to icon view, which there's your folder, and when I click on that, it opens up a whole new folder, and I'm not even clicking, I'm just holding my cursor over that little line there. Yeah, okay, I guess you can click if you want to do that too, but you get a little more, you get some information just laid out differently. It's a 19-second clip, 10-second clip, 12-second clip, 7-second clip. Minute 54 second, okay. This 11 here is just indicating the frames. And when I hover over something like this, I can see, okay, it's an MOV file, that's fine. The aspect ratio is 568 by 320. This isn't just SD, this is very SD, or standard definition, so this is not in HD. We're looking at 29.97 progressive frames per second. Shorthand, we'll just call this 30 frames per second video, which is perfectly fine. I typically shoot my things at 29.96 or 976. I'm sorry, not 20, 23.976. I think that's what it is. But that would be shorthand for, is 24 frames per second. That's more of your film look. That's what you see on the big screen at the theaters. And just kind of gives it a more cinematic feel to the video. Then we're looking at mono audio. The hertz is fine. You don't really want to go below 4,400. So that's pretty good. 48's pretty good. Maybe even preferable, but this is just fine. So I'm going to click out of this. I don't like to look at it this way. You might. If you hover over a bin and hit the tilde key, which is that squiggly line, it turns that bin into kind of like a full screen look. And here we see we got our clips, we got the frame rate of our clips. Video info. So the good news is that even though the aspect ratio is a very small video, they're all the same, and so we won't have to go in there and tweak those too much to get them to conform to what we wanted to do. Audio looks good, and just like we got into this mess, we'll hit the tilde key and get it back out. So that's that. We also want to bring in some audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to hit new bin and create an audio file. I'm going to right click, new bin, create an assets file folder thing. And I'm going to navigate to where I keep everything. Remember what I said when I said that organization was very important? Don't judge me for this next part. I kind of created a lot of these quickly, and it kind of got away from me. So I know that this is the music that I want, I'm pretty sure. I'll drag that in. And forgive me, as I'm doing this, I can't actually hear what I'm putting together, so I'm gonna have to rely a lot on meters to put this together. So there's audio, and we usually have a closing slide, and I, for some reason, put that in the sermon stuff. Assets, that's a good slide, but that's not what we want. Ocean lines, here we go. Ocean lines, and drag that in. And I'm gonna hit the tilde key again, and I just want to make you aware that the audio is a little different. I'm sorry, not the audio. I'm sorry, I look at the wrong thing. The frame rate's the same. That's good, but the aspect ratio is 1920 by 1080. This is an HD file, so when we drag this into a project that is only 568 by 320, this is going to be ginormous. So just something to be aware of. I'm going to drag this into the assets because it might be something we use again. The audio can either be dragged into the audio or the assets folder. I'm just going to drag into the audio folder for now because it makes the most sense for what we're doing here for explanation purposes. But typically assets for me are things that will live beyond this project. So I can use this project later on and do something else with it. First thing, so about the easiest way to do it is just to hop right in, and I'm going to double click on this one and just sort of see what we got. Don't want that one, don't need that one, don't need that one. If you want, you can go in here and, worship. We can retitle these. Problem is that the clips that you drag in do not get dragged into some clandestine Premiere Pro archive, So if we happen to take one of these clips, for instance, let's see, where was I here? Joel? No, here we go. If I take this small group time and just move it over here, and I return, it's asking where that went. So I'm going to drag it back and go through this process here real fast. Open. Okay, now we're back to where we were. So you can do that. The problem with renaming these is that if we happen to, or if you happen to move these files around, maybe you come back to it a year later or something like that, and it's going to ask for videocopy.mov. And if you're looking at this and it just says worship, your guess is as good as mine, so I tend to kind of leave naming these things alone unless I have a zillion clips and I want a very specific name for them. Okay, but I digress. So let's see here. I think it's one of these. Yeah. So we'll drag this in, and all I'm doing is just clicking and dragging into this box right here. What you can do is come up here to sequence and go through this mess and find the right sequence that matches your footage. But it will do that anyway when you drag this stuff in here. I'm going to take this, since you'll see this logo is a little different than the rest of these. I'll pull this out, and this is going to be our baptism tutorial template. Yeah, that'll work. And that's a sequence. That's what a sequence looks like. Yeah. Let's see. The audio is very, very, very low on this. He was not big into projecting. I cannot hear said audio, so I'm kind of relying on these waveforms, and you can rely on them too, should you desire. But we're not really going to make this something super special to hang on the wall per se. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of those, and what I can do is come over here to this razor tool. You also saw that you can click on C. So if I click V, it's going to give me a selection tool. If I just click C, it gives me the razor. and I can use that razor, and wherever this line is, I can start slicing up this video. I'm going to select the V tool for a selection, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to actually hit the C, go back to V, and on this one, I'm going to select it, but this time I'm going to hit Option Delete. And what you saw there is it just deleted that and brought these two back together. Now remember when I talked about this tool right here, this kind of the snap tool, looks like a magnet. Just like a magnet works, it will magnetize two videos together, or magnetize two videos when they get close together to where they snap together. So, boop, it snapped right into place, just the way we wanted it to. If that's not on, we can turn that off. Your guess is as good as mine. It looks like we'll have some overlap if I leave it right there. So best thing to do is either to snap it or to come to this area in between and right click the area. It may be, was it Option click or Command click, something like that for those that don't like right click mouses. And just hit this ripple delete and it does the same thing. You also notice that we're starting to see some stuff in our program monitor. The prophecy has been fulfilled. When you look up there, you'll see we have a representation of our timeline up here. You'll also notice that we have all this jazz down here, which I neglected to say anything about in the last video. These are your in and outs for the timeline. You also have in and outs. If I double click on this and we get to the source video for just basic, I'm sorry, you'll have in and outs for singular video. The timeline does more than just the singular video. So if I come over here and I hit overwrite, which is typically what you want, it pops that into place. Now, why did it go up here, use these different tracks and not these? Well, you'll notice my A and my V1 are on separate tracks, and so these will follow wherever those are at, usually, unless there's some sort of bug or it's hiccuping or something like that. So just be cautious when you do that. Command Z, your undo quick key, is very helpful. But since we have this here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and unlink, and then what this does is it unlinks the audio and the video. Grab the audio and get rid of that, and to where we just have the video, because when we put this together for a typical testimony video, we just want to hear him talking and maybe some background music. So we'll leave this here. That's a pretty good place for that, but not typically how we start off these videos. So I'm going to take all these, and I'm just using Command and the arrow key to kind of pull those away from the beginning of the video. I should mention that even though I can't hear the audio right now, we can come into, if we click on effects, editing, and our effects controls, I can click on this and come over here to volume. Hopefully you're following along where my cursor is at, over here in the effects panel, and I'm going to pull that all the way up. I'm also going to right click this whole thing, copy, select all these videos, and paste attributes. And what that will do is ask me if I want to paste the motion. And so this is like your scale, your rotation, your position, all that stuff, as well as audio, and it's got all these different audio things selected. This is fine. We can actually take that off if we wanted to, but it doesn't really matter since we haven't changed any actual scaling or motion of the video. So okay, and you'll notice that we got these little FX, short for effects, little keys lit up and says, hey, there's an effect applied to this, just so you know. So when I play this, we notice that the meters are going a little bit hotter than they previously were. And hopefully it's a little bit easier to hear. The downside of this is when you increase the volume, you increase all of the volume, so all of the noise is probably there. So let's actually start put some of this together. Go back to assembly. Again, you don't have to. We were in editing there. We could just click on this, move this around a little bit, and get what we want. But this is fine. So we want an establishing shot. How do we want to start off this video? I think we want to start off with him walking to church. Whenever you get to the point where you want to start to shoot these and think a little bit more about doing this, get creative. We've had now 3 or 4 videos that all look the same. So there's something to be said for branding, but there's something also to be said for these are unique children that have a unique, hopefully a unique story about their salvation. Cater it to them. Don't just do the same cookie cutter thing. You also notice that you want to be aware of the video that you're putting in. So this mess right here probably need, it's one of those things that if you're not thinking about it, you won't do it. But you just gotta be aware of the surroundings when you go to shoot video. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit in the in clip there. You can also hit I for in and O for out. And I'm gonna do it right about there. Actually, yeah, right about there. Yeah, right about there. That's about 2 seconds of video. That's fine. And hit the out or the O button. I'm gonna hit period on the keyboard, which is the same as this button. Eventually, you'll find that bring this down. You'll find that that these quick keys on your keyboard are going to be wonderful to use. I'm gonna right-click and unlink because we don't need outside audio for this. I'm also going to add a dissolve. I'm going to drag all this stuff over so it's not impeding that dissolve, because if it dissolves over that video, you'll see the video underneath and it'll look ugly. Don't believe me, just try it. So, pull this out just a little bit. That's what it is. So this starts, kid starts talking, you can tell down there. And maybe we want to kind of break this up just a little bit. I'm going to command with the arrow keys. And I'm going to pull this back. Again, I have no idea what he's saying right now, so forgive me. And let's put some more stuff. We have this. Oh, you know what? Let's complete the look here. So we'll go back here. If you hit shift and come to an edge, it snaps to that edge. So that's a good thing. Let's see here. We'll double click on this, look at the source monitor. Okay, looking good, lots of color, loving that. The other thing is kind of shooting down on them. If we can kind of lower the camera and not make it look like we're looking down on somebody, that might be a good move too. These are just afterthoughts. I'm playing armchair quarterback at this point. So that's pretty good, in and out. And when you notice when I select the in and out, this number over here to the edge changes. So right now we're looking at a 2-second clip. I bring it in, it's a 1-second clip. Great. I want to kind of avoid this right here because it looks like he's walking into some kind of mental ward. Everything's very sterile, mostly because it's all blown out because the colors are just shot to kingdom come. But yeah. This just looks like a more fun, warm area. So this is what I'm gonna do. You can do whatever you want. That's why we call it art. I'm at period, and I'm gonna drop that in. I'm gonna right-click, unlink, and get rid of that. Or I could just hit the mute button, and I'll never hear it. But in the interest of cleanliness, I'm just gonna delete that because I will never ever use that audio. I left a gap here, which is fine. We're gonna take this and kind of put that into place. Notice that I'm just doing cuts at this point. Not really worried about dissolving or anything like that. Let's see here. A lot of times like this. Sorry, I got distracted again. So here we are, with ins and outs. You can see that the duration changes a little bit as we do this, and it gives you kind of an idea of how much space it's going to take up. Right now we're only looking at, it's not even a full minute of video at this point. Again, your look may be different. You may be saying a little more stuff. I don't know. Do that. Oop. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. I'm sorry. You can just disable the whole thing. I'm gonna hit, Command Z and get out of that. Unlink. That's what we wanted. Do that. I'm just using shortcut keys that mimic the razor and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not gonna make you have to learn that. Then there are times when you just don't have enough B-roll. You have a lot of different clips, a lot of things that he's saying, but you're gonna eventually have to butt a video, a talking head back to back. That's what we call a jump cut. Actually, that's not a bad one. It's bad, but it's not real bad. But it's a little more forgivable. You see how it's a little jarring. He's looking over here and then he looks in front. What we'll do is we'll just take that, and it helps to change these things up a little bit. So we'll go into editing. It's still selected, and now we have all of these things that are applied to this video. Most of which we didn't do anything with. Now remember, we adjusted the audio, so the audio is up to 6 decibels. Should be up to 6 decibels. I don't know why the meter's down here, but so that's consistent. Opacity is your transparency. Anti-flicker, we don't care about that. Anchor point, don't care about that. Rotation, don't. Uniform size for the scaling. If I take that off and the size is not quite uniform. So I'm gonna hit Command Z. I'm gonna click on Uniform Scale. So this will get bigger and smaller as I want it to. And in this case, I want it to get a little bit bigger. Do not kid yourself. You do not have the resolution to make this big. But because the videos start off as pretty low res, and when it gets broadcast to the screens, this isn't a deal breaker. It's nicer to, and you see I got some black on the side. I need to move this over. Click off that. So we do what we can, but I'm not going to labor the point. So there's that, and eventually he's going to say this is my story. Not in this clip. I know it's in the other clip, but we're going to just do this. Come over here to Assembly, and come up to Assets, and we know that we're going to dissolve to it. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the end there until I get that red mark. Excuse me. I'm going to hit Shift D, which is the shortcut key for this default transition. And remember at the beginning how you didn't want to have anything underneath this transition, because that's the same transition I'm using right here, and that would look really weird if you just start up on. So we don't do that. This 1080p image is zoomed in a bunch. What you can do is come over to editing, and again, that's why I usually just leave it in editing, but I'm trying to be obvious with where things are. And I can scale it down until it fits the box. I'm going to hit Command Z like that and bring it back to 100%. I'm going to right click and hit on this clip, in our timeline, right click and click Scale to Frame Size. And that did all the hard work for us. I would prefer that the scale resemble what it just did here, but it does not. So, but that's fine. There's probably a good reason for it, but whatever. This is a 24-second clip. We do not need 24 seconds of this. So it's about 4 seconds. That'd be fine. And I'm going to hit Shift D, and this will dissolve it out. Okay, so in here you'll notice that we usually have some kind of text or something like that. So this is Joe Sixpack's baptism video, or something like that. At this point, we can navigate to our graphics previously not really talked about graphics layout. This is super helpful with the release of the 2018 Adobe Premiere Pro CC. And what this allows me to do is to create animations in After Effects that you can now manipulate, specifically things like color and width. Oh, no, not width. I'm sorry, color and text. Sometimes speed, sometimes opacity, sometimes drop shadows, depending on how I build them within Premiere Pro. So you can cater what I do specifically to your project. I've incorporated this same thing into sermon videos for things like lower third titles. When you get comfortable with this, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, what you can do is you'll get a MORTG. I look at it as a mortgage. It's not mortgage. I think it's something like that file, and that's a information file for this panel. So what you'll do is you'll come over here, and if it's on Edit, make sure it's on Browse. Click over to the Essential Graphics panel, and again, if you don't see this stuff, it looks like a blank screen. Sometimes that happens. Come up to Window, Workspaces, and reset to saved layout, and this should show itself up. Install Motion Graphics Template, and you'll navigate to the folder that it lives in. Okay, so I can't get to it right now. We're going to try something else. Let's see here. Let's use this bold title. I don't even know what this looks like, what it does. It's not terrible, not what we're going to end up using, but not terrible. And click over to, so we're already on Edit. Your title here. Hit T. I get to change the title, change the text. Baptism. And click on the T. Testimony. That, because this is one of those that came with the gosh, that's kind of messy, but it came with Adobe Premiere. This is just the way this is laid out. The way I lay mine out, you can actually type over here the name, type baptism, type the dad's name, whatever you need to do. Change things. It's a lot more clearly laid out. In fact, let me bring something in that I did for the station here. Let's see. Or wait a minute. Here we go. This one for church. And so it's loading all this information, and you'll notice that it gave you an extra folder in your project folder. Panel, and that's what this is. Don't delete it, don't do anything with it. It's just fine the way it is. But if I hover over this again, we're looking at a much smaller video than what this template is. Template was built for, it may have even been built for 4K, but I'm pretty sure it's just 1080. So we're going to scale it down with it selected. Boom. Pastor and victim. This is what I usually use for the baptisms when they're up there in the water. So, Mr. Guy and Joe's six-pack. When I click off, boom, it's there. And it's already animated for you. Doggone it, I'm amazing. And so, actually what I'll do, and what I have been doing, is if I delete that, and move this, and come over here, click on that. When we play through this,
repeat the question and ask. So the person you look up
we
to
get
who's a Christian.
we get the kid's lower third, get his name in there. So that's pretty cool. And again, you can adjust the size and the scale of this thing. If we click on motion, we can move the whole thing around inside this window, should you desire. But there's, and I'm sorry, let's put a little transition on that. So that's something. Again, mine won't do that because that's a little weird. Yeah, it's like when the kid finds out that there's a zoom button on the camera. Everything looks like just a freaky zoom in and out video. So at this point, we want music. I want to put some music underneath there. Well, good news, we have music, and it's just as easy as the rest of this stuff. Just drag, drop it in there. You want to make sure some of these music, there's a little bit of dead, a little bit of silence to it. You can, at least at the beginning, you can click at the beginning of that and hit Control D for a fade in. This music has a fade in built into it, so you don't need that. This music will be much louder than the kid is talking, so you need to regulate that a little bit. I'm going to, if I left this on, I get a keyframe. If I move this stuff around, we don't need that. Delete. So I'll take that off, and I know that the music will probably sound better down here. You can tell me later that, Kevin, you got it so wrong. Hit C for the razor tool. Again, a lot of this is about to be just wash, rinse, repeat. Come over here. And we can see on these levels that he stops talking about this point. And I'm going to, if I like that same transition for in and out, if I click in the middle between two spots and hit Shift D, or I can go over to my, my effects and drag in some kind of a transition, audio transition. I'll get that same thing too. I want a longer transition, I can do that. I can also do this for video. Yeah, but don't do that. You don't need to. So, having fun with me, sticking with me? Great. About at this point, I want this audio, and it's really convenient because I don't have to set keyframes because it's kind of already been done with this transition. And I want this audio to be a bit louder so that it kind of crescendos when he's done talking. So anyway, that's a real fast and dirty way of putting together a testimony video, but hopefully that kind of helped get you off on the right start with this sort of stuff. Things to keep in mind: whatever's on top of the video takes precedence over what's below the video. So if I click on this eyeball and hide, basically blind this layer, you can see that. That the next thing takes precedence is the video directly below it. While we're here, we'll look at color real fast. Don't go overboard on color. If we click on that, we get a bunch of other panels, including Lumetri scopes. There it is. And this Lumetri color panel. Here we go. Here's probably looks like that. And here, just experiment and play, really. I can show you, so this divvied up between red, green, and blue, which is primarily all of video. You got your reds over here, kind of your greens and your blues, and they all make up all these different colors. And if we get a little crazy on the blues, you can see it here, you can see it here for sure, and you can start to see it here. With the iPhone, you probably don't need to tweak this too much. Sometimes you can get a little more saturation than you need, but yeah, you're probably going to be okay. I tend to kind of pull the highlights down a little bit because the higher the highlights up here, you're just going to lose that information. There's things that you just can't help because we're in SD and we're just working with really subpar video. But we can crush the blacks a little bit. You notice when I move this slider, you can see that RGB parade moved down a little bit. And the rest kind of just push and pulls in different ways. If you look at it like, it's still a little green, I can go towards the magenta a bit. I want to warm it up. So we changed it a little bit. This over here is your vector scope. This is what shows you what the colors are in play for the most part. And how much saturation your image has. Right now we're looking pretty good. We're kind of leaning a little more towards the yellows and the reds, but that makes sense because we got a lot of yellows and reds going on in this image. If I crank the saturation up a little more, it looks terrible here and it blooms the vector scope. Your vector scope will change based on the image that you're using. If you double click in the middle, it just resets it. Let's see here. This is, let's see, so here, it doesn't seem like much has changed, but we've got a lot more saturation on the yellow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna bring all of it down just a bit. There we go. Just sort of keep it legal. And when I say legal, there are monitors that just cannot handle color that is beyond this this spider web here. It's I mean, it's not going to hurt the monitor and stuff. It's just information that's lost. So it's good to bring that stuff in. There'll be times in which, let's see if I can find one. Yeah, this is probably as good as an illustration as any. And again, you're affecting the colors of whatever's selected. So right now we have yellow. It's a little much. Bring the highlights down. His face is so doggone bright. Whites, blacks. And I'm just eyeballing this. I'm not even looking at this right over here. I should probably bring this down some. But the yellows right in this area, not straight up yellow, it'll grade over to red, is still just a little hot. So we'll come over here to curves, and there's a half dozen ways of doing this stuff. But this is one of them. So we have our hue. You notice that the hue just goes crazy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select red and yellow, and it gives us all these points. And I think this is the point that I want. I'm going to bring that back, and as I pull it in, you can see on the vector scope that something is happening where we're making it legal. So we're pulling those back in, and that looks pretty good. And you just do that through the rest of the video. When I was playing with this earlier, blue and yellow, blue were just crazy on this one. Looks great in a classroom, not so great on video. So yellow, blue, we'll just respectively take yellow, and you can even make your own points. Yellow and blue, pull those in. So it doesn't hurt the video to have it. You can tell that some saturation has been lost here. Like toggle on and off, but it doesn't hurt the video to try and keep it legal. Again, we're having some yellow problems, but you get the idea. You probably won't have to mess with it too much on a video that's pre-produced like this. So that is how to put a video testimony together. The same principles apply for a sermon video. All the elements will be there. It'll be obvious how that works. But for sermon videos, it won't be as intense as going in there. Okay, I want to clip this, clip that. Unless he's actually showing some kind of video during the service, and you want to make sure that you get the right clip for the video, and you want to make sure it's on the timeline at the right time, and maybe you want to dissolve to it. I don't know, but at this point, you can do video. So there's a lot there. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be at it, and hopefully, the more your department will benefit from having this knowledge. So we'll come back to assembly, and so that's that. Okay, Kevin. Well, that's all well and good. I got it the way I want it. How do I get it into video form? How do I get it out of this and something I can show somewhere else? Good question. And I'll answer it two ways. Suppose I'm going to Control C for copy and Control V for paste. If I export the video just like this, then I'm exporting all of this, including this black space of nothingness. We don't want that. But sometimes you'll be working on something that's like, well, I may want to have 2 or 3 different videos on the same sequence. Usually you just create a new sequence, but that may be your thing. So what you can do is copy, is select all of this and hit the question mark / key right next to your shift key. It puts up these ins and outs. If I right click up here and clear in and out, it's the same as clicking that and moving forward and clicking that, except it's a little more exact. So doing that makes sure that this is the only thing that's exported out. Inversely, if you accidentally have this going and you don't realize it, your video is only going to be as long as your ins and outs here. So at that point, what we want to do, and again, if you don't have this on there, it's only going to spit out all the video that's in your timeline. Hopefully that makes sense. So with everything there, we want to go to File, Export, Media. We'll think about it. And we hit another panel of stuff. Okay, what are we looking at? We don't care. First off, I'm going to ignore things that we don't care about. Ooh, that's interesting. That may be the way you want to go, actually. I typically do H.264, high bitrate is fine. You have this output name and Word Finals. And this is, and so at this point we're selecting where we want it to go, and we can change the name. Joe Sixpack. Okay, it changes it here. Don't care. I mean, you want to make sure that the video is selected and audio is selected, but it will probably be selected by default if you have video and audio in your project. Summary, don't care. Effects, don't bother with that. Publish is cool if you want to look into that. Basically, you can export it to your computer, and it will also upload to things like Vimeo and YouTube and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The only problem with a lot of these is you can't schedule from this application. So there's that. Don't care about captions, don't care about multiplexer, don't care about, you care about audio, but it's pretty much thinking, just all the thinking for you, so don't worry about that. Video is where we're at, and we'll just match source, it's fine. It's not really letting you change too much. Oh, here we go, bitrate. This is very important. The more bits that you got going for you, the bigger this file will be. Because we're dealing with a file that looks like crap, we don't need to take up a ridiculous amount of space on our project for crap. Because adding more bits to something that doesn't have very many bits to begin with doesn't somehow make better video. Just makes a chunkier video. So, even with there are sermon videos, I can have that stuff all the way down. Like, I mean, we might have a 2 or something like that. I mean, I make it real small because it's just it's got to be for the website, and it's got to be for my own sanity. So this is fine. And so at this point, we have the option to queue or export. Again, I'm not going through all this stuff. We're not shooting in VR, so don't even ask. We can export it here, and what will happen is a window will pop up, and we'll just start exporting to wherever we saved it to, or we can queue it up, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to queue it up, and we're going to go to it's exporting all the data. At this point, because we're using Encoder, we can actually save this, which we probably should have done a while ago, and even work on another project, because this is going to be looking at the one project that we just sent over, and just sort of ignore whatever else you're doing. Whereas if we exported directly from here, we just going to sort of have to sit until it was done. It's kept all of our settings. We can go into, at this point, and look at, oh my goodness, there's all these other different ways to do this. I want to do an MPEG now. And what we can do is we can drag this over, lay it on top, see how it's highlighted, and let go, and boom, we have MPEG. I'm going to Command Z because that's not what I wanted to begin with. You can change the destination at this point, but we'll end up, but largely we just want to spit out video. Before I move on, media browser, similar to the media browser in Premiere. I don't really use it, so, you know, whatever. Because you can drag just an MOV file in here and say, you know, I want this to be an MPEG file, or I want to change up the bitrate, I want to make it smaller, I want to make it bigger, or something like that. That's what you can use this media encoder for. So it's nice to have, not super necessary at this point. Over here is your queue. I don't mess with watch folders. I have to research that a little bit. It sounds like more of a team environment, but we don't have a team subscription, I promise. Again, your queue, your start, your stop, as far as the queue is concerned. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm going to select it, delete. Yes, I'm sure. Over here is your renderer, just like the other one. This one's selected to the middle. I think the other one was OpenCL. It doesn't matter in my case too much. Just do whatever the beefiest, most muscliest GPU you have, use that. Don't do software only because you'll be here forever. And again, over here, your presets, how you want it to spit out. Down here, this is very important, is the encoding. You'll see the progress bar move from right to left, or from left to right. And we'll hit play. This is queued up. You don't have to select it, but it's already queued up, so we'll hit play. And if you have multiple videos, it will just go into the queue. If we toggle this down a little bit, you can actually watch it. You don't have to watch it, depending on your machine. Watching it will use up RAM, so making it a little bit slower. But in this case, because the video is just so stellar when it came to size and bit rates and that sort of thing, it doesn't really matter. Now what we have here is a link, and if I click on that, it will take us exactly to where our video is, and we can open it up and watch it, listen to it. He's probably talking at this point. And we're walking through the church. Hey, what's up? My name's Joe Sixpack. I like to play games and go to Sunday school class. And, oh, by the way, I'm a Christian now because I accept Jesus in my heart. And I hope that you want to accept Jesus in your heart too. This is my story. Boom. So that's that's that in a nutshell. And so I hope that made it a little bit clearer. If we need to do a tutorial on the sermon, it's very similar to all this, but hopefully at this point you know enough to get your feet wet and to start digging around and getting comfortable with the Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2018. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I will do my best to explain that stuff to you, but until next time, have a great day and happy editing.